are going to take a look at our first player of this round 2, which is, of course, Jonathan Marston.
Yeah, Jonathan Marston of the UK. Well-known player and a bit of a veteran himself as well. Bochum Regional Top 8, Paris Regional Finalist, Harrogate Regional Champion in 2018, and a 2-time Zelda Challenge Champion. And that's an online tournament that has like a huge number of players, and like it's kind of another regional in itself, of which Jonathan is a double champion of.
Yeah, so Jonathan really showcasing that he can do well both offline and on online tournaments. So definitely a threat here. Is going to be playing that Ogre Pawn, Hearthflame Mask, Fluttermane, Iron Hands, Roaring Moon for Rigiraf, and the Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is a Pokemon that hasn't really had any great finishes at like regionals and such, but I feel like it's that Pokemon that, especially in online tournaments, it may pop up every now and then. Maybe, very powerful in, these matches with, when it comes to World Cup, you only play one best of 3, can really catch you off guard, if your opponent doesn't prepare for it. Because those Blood Moons and also just those Hyper Voices, they hit hard.
Oh my goodness, yeah. You kind of like build a team, don't you? Sometimes you maybe prepare for Fluttermanes, the Roaring Moons, the Iron Hands, maybe, but like at least maybe it's just me, but like Ursaluna Blood Moon just always slips my mind, and then I come across one, I go, oh no, I don't know like any of my calcs versus this, and like Blood Moon ends up just like destroying my team. So yeah, I think like in the right position at the exact right time, I think Ursaluna Blood Moon is a really nice call.
Yeah, and in combination with that for Rigiraf, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Trick Room setters we have in the current format, being able to, you cannot fake out of a Rigiraf thanks to the Armor Tail ability, and we don't really see a lot of Pokemon with Taunt, and if we do see them, it's usually on something like a Tornadus, which, with the Prankster ability, becomes a priority move, so is also blocked by the Armor Tail. And in combination with that Citrus Berry, makes it really difficult to just, knock out a Rigiraf before it can set up that Trick Room, which then, of course, gives the Ursaluna the opportunity to start sweeping and dealing some big damage. But we are going to take a look at Jonathan's opponent, who is, of course, Juan Pablo Cambón, is going to be playing that Ogre Pawn, the Wellspring Mask in this team, Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, Indeedee, Tornadus, and Regieleki.
Yes, this is the Tiago Latanzi LIC runner-up team, I believe, which obviously took the tournament by storm. No one really knew it was coming with it, honestly, and no one was really having a matchup versus it necessarily. So I think it really got away with it and did really, really well, and kind of really put Latin America very much in the spotlight thanks to this team. But Juan Pablo Cambón is no stranger to VGC himself either. The Buenos Aires Special Event Top 8, Buenos Aires Special Event number 2, Top 4, Costa Mesa Regional Top 16, and a 2 times World Cup of VGC competitor, showing Argentina very much value his inputs every year.
Yeah, definitely a threat here for, of course, Jonathan to face off in this finals. And it's weird to think that a Pokemon like Regieleki is something that nobody really prepares for, given that in the Sword and Shield era, it was, one of the most popular Pokemon. And also interesting to see the Fluttermane Chi-Yu combo make a little bit of a comeback. It was, of course, one of the strongest duos all the way in Regulation D. But has dropped off quite a bit in the Regulation E format, so nice to see it make a little bit of a comeback here. Gonna see if Juan Pablo decides to bring this Chi-Yu, is it gonna be able to hit its moves or not, because in my experience it usually doesn't, but gonna have to see how that works out.
Yeah, but when it does though, it's definitely going to do a lot of damage, especially with that Terror of Fire behind it too, so no amount of kind of redirection is going to be able to kind of save you from Chi-Yu's damage, assuming it hits. And with that powerful combination alongside the Indeedee, actually, where Fake Out suddenly can't stop it anymore, and Helping Hand as well, boosting up that damage even further. Oh my goodness, you're getting so much damage potential. So I think Juan's team is basically going to be about just positioning the right Pokemon in the right slot, and then just clicking the button that knows it's gonna blow up something.
Yeah, and I also want to quickly point out that a lot on both teams, I feel like there's a lot of text prepared for certain Pokemon that did not even really show up. Like this Regieleki has the Terra Blast, Terra Ice, which, would hit something like a Landorus very well, but no Landorus on Jonathan's side. Of course it could hit the Ursaluna, but also the Farigiraf. There's like no priority moves it has to be scared of on Juan Pablo's team. But we are gonna get into this game. Number 1 of the second match. It is going to be the Ogerpon Chiyu lead facing off against the Iron Hands Farigiraf.
Okay, so honestly, like you can see, really, Jono definitely wants to go for that Trick Room mode, and Juan Pablo definitely wants to shut that down. So Iron Hands obviously threatens fake out into either of these slots, but Juan Pablo probably has the Indeedee in the back to be able to switch in and kind of block that fake out here. But of course, if you're about to do that, then you're only attacking with one Pokemon here. So I think if you're Jonathan, you kind of need to go for that fake out regardless anyway, because then at least you're forcing Juan Pablo to bring in that Indeedee and only attack with one Pokemon here. So we may see a Terra on the Farigiraf, for instance, to be able to take some of Chiyu's attacks a little bit better, because it's that Terra Fire, and the Overheat is probably going to be a one-hit KO here, even if it's not super effective. But no switching, just the fake out straight away into this Chiyu, so that is not moving at all. Ogerpon comes out, actually with the Swords Dance here.
The Swords Dance on the Ogerpon means that these Ivy Cudgels and Horn Leeches are going to deal so much damage, but is that going to matter now that this Trick Room has gone up? Yeah, interesting to see no switches there. I'm pretty sure that, you know, an Overheat would have KO'd the Farigiraf if it had not gone for Terra Fire. But then again, you know, you become weak to the Ivy Cudgel from this Ogerpon, but that turn works out perfectly for Jonathan here, this Iron Hands and the Farigiraf in a great spot now, because Farigiraf, not only a great Trick Room setter, but also a Pokemon that deals a surprising amount of damage as well.
Yeah, it does, honestly. It's like, I think it's maybe second best stat, I think, or maybe after HP, so... But obviously, Jonathan's trading that good damage for even more damage in that Ursaline Blood Moon that comes in, and really safely too, with a spiky shield on this Ogerpon as well, so absolutely getting away with it. And Jonathan calls the Protect 2, targeting the exact right slot as well. Close combat, absolutely dispatching of this Chiyu here, and where most Chiyu maybe Terra Ghost to be able to get around that sort of attack, this one's Terra Fire and cannot get around this close combat one bit. So Juan Pablo down to 3 more Pokemon, and Jonathan has 3 turns of Trick Room to make the most of.
It's not an unrisky switch there by Jonathan. This Ogerpon is at +2, and an Ivy Cudgel into the Farigiraf slot wouldn't have been, you know, too crazy. So if that had just gone into the switching in Ursaluna and just knocked it out, that could have gone south really quick for Jonathan, but instead, it is sitting here at full HP and ready to dish out some Hyper Voices or maybe a Blood Moon. Of course, now that the Indeedee is on the field, means that it can redirect that powerful Blood Moon to itself, keeping this Ogerpon safe. Pretty sure Hyper Voice is not gonna, you know, is gonna do good damage, but not enough to knock out these Pokemon.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to do a lot, but maybe not enough. And what Juan Pablo does have up his sleeve is the Terra option still. And Ogerpon going for the Terra Water of itself is going to be able to get a special defense boost and then take Ursalina's attacks a lot better. And most likely a Blood Moon still, thanks to that boost. So it's probably in a position to be able to get off some attack, and maybe with a Follow Me potential from the Indeedee, it's going to be able to survive whatever the Iron Hands goes for too. But Jonathan is definitely going to boost up his damage even further with the Terra Normal on this Blood Moon Ursaluna. Here's the damage we were talking about, Shona. Let's see what it can do.
Oh, here comes the Follow Me coming out from the Indeedee, so Blood Moon not going to be able to KO the Ogerpon, but this Hyper Voice coming out is going to deal a lot of damage, is not enough to knock out the Ogerpon, but that Indeedee taking that surprisingly well, and in combination with that Wild Charge as well, still hanging on. And +2 Horn Leech into that Iron Hands, not enough to knock it out. It is still an Iron Hands, it is tanky, but that is a lot of health recovery, and I'm pretty sure that this Ogerpon is easily going to be able to take one more Hyper Voice. Of course, now the Indeedee is going to be knocked out by one more of that attack, and then the Iron Hands can finish off any damage that, you know, does not knock out the Ogerpon. But still, that Indeedee took that Terra Normal Silk Scarf Hyper Voice surprisingly well.
Yeah, it honestly did. Like, it's such a powerful attack, but Indeedee does what it does best. It's bulky and it can really support his teammates. So a double protect to stall out a further turn of Trick Room here, but Jonathan's still going to have another one after this turn too. Hyper Voice comes out, so not burning kind of the Blood Moon option here. So Jonathan still has Blood Moon as an option going into next turn if he so wanted to click it too. So it's going to be another protect from the Wild Charge on Iron Hands' end too, and maybe actually some free damage because that is a spiky shield there, but it is enough for the KO too, so Yeah, the spiky shield KO from the Oakbon, and the first for Juan Pablo in this game 1.
Yeah, I think that's the first spiky shield knockout we've seen on stream. So yeah, there you go. But now for Rigiref coming in, still a very solid Pokemon in Trick Room, but Trick Room is slowly running out. So I think Jonathan has to get rid of this Ogerpon to keep the Farigiraf safe, so it can possibly set up another Trick Room if necessary. Because once this Trick Room expires, that +2 Ogerpon is definitely going to hurt if you cannot KO it this turn.
Yeah, like absolutely, really hurt. So yeah, it's kind of really amount of pressure to kind of go for that terror at the moment to be able to take it down. But and then if you can then take the move, you can then spiky shield, like if you so wanted to, like to get around other things and get something in from your partner to be able to like start getting the speed control right into your option there. And start making the most of this Ogerpon with the amount of damage it's got behind it with the Terror Water, boosting the Ivy Cudgel even further now. Now we do see the Terror, so let's see if it can survive this onslaught of attacks from Jonathan.
Oh, this might be Juan Pablo's only hope. Get that special defense boost and maybe survive these special attacks from both of these Pokemon on Jonathan's side. Is going to be a Dazzling Gleam first. That Ogerpon took barely anything, but now this Hyper Voice or maybe even a Blood Moon, you know, is single target, and there is the Blood Moon. I'm pretty sure that that should be easily enough to knock out this Ogerpon. And yes, there it is. Blood Moon, just such a powerful move. Of course, the drawback of that move is that you cannot use it twice in a row. But I think at this point, Ursaluna has done what it needs to do, and even with the Trick Room expiring, I think Jonathan is in a great spot to finish this first game. And in comes the Flutter Mane for Juan Pablo.
Yeah, Flutter Mane coming in isn't the worst Pokemon to have. It is Focus Sash, so it's going to be able to take at least one hit from something. But yeah, I think in the front of just Farigiraf on its own too, it's such a bulky Pokemon. We're going to be able to see at least another Trick Room go up from this Farigiraf. There's no kind of boosting item on this Flutter Mane either that could boost it further. So yeah, even a critical hit wasn't taking down this Ursaluna. And because of that Mind's Eye, normal type moves still hit this Flutter Mane. And as you can see, the 2-star block is enough to claim this Flutter Mane for a KO. Jonathan is 1-0 and up in this second set in the World Cup of VGC finals.
Yeah, definitely good information to know that a Flutter Mane can take that Hyper Voice even at a single target. You know, Flutter Mane's special defense stats really shining through there, so that could be crucial information in the second game. But yeah, that Moonblast also doing a decent amount of damage. That's also good to know that, you know, even with a Focus Sash, Flutter Mane could possibly two-shot that Ursaluna.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, does a heck ton of damage, and I think it's Terra Fairy, I believe, and I think with the Helping Hand from Indeedee, with that double boost, then you can then get a one-hit KO on Ursaluna, for instance. So that could be an angle that Juan Pablo could kind of try and get himself into, and especially with a Focus Sash, even if you're in Trick Room, you know you're going to be able to take at least one attack from, say, an Iron Hands, for instance. So perhaps that's an angle he can go for. But yeah, interesting to see the Ogerpon actually go down like through in that Terror, because I think this Ogerpon is not the bulkiest of Ogerpons, because of the hyper offensive nature of this team. It's very fast, got lots of attack as well, so maybe a more bulky one might have survived, but yeah, maybe just shows the power of Ursaluna, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think Juan Pablo really needs to think about how he deals with the Trick Room setup in the second game. You know, the Chiyu, it went down in the first game before it could even do anything, and it technically has, you know, some options to either go for powerful overheats, or maybe even just go for snarls and, you know, lower the special attack of, you know, all the special attackers on Jonathan's side of the field, which, you know, Farigiraf and Ursaluna are, of course, the two crucial ones. But there is also the possible Flutter Mane if, you know, Jonathan attacks outside of Trick Room. So yeah, I think if he can maybe even force a Terra Fire on the Farigiraf, and maybe have the Ogerpon come in with like a special defense boost from the Terra Water, that might be something that could work out for him, but gonna have to see how that works out in this game too.
Yeah, let's jump into that game 2 now. Let's see if Jonathan can actually pull off another win thanks to his Ursaluna Farigiraf duo. Now he's kind of revealed his strategy, and it's a little bit of a switch off on Juan Pablo's end. Indeedee and the Chiyu, but sticking with the tried and tested Farigiraf Iron Hands duo on Jonathan's end.
And yeah, Indeedee actually in the lead here for Juan Pablo. I would have expected that to be in the back as well, but just as good in the lead, gonna get that special defense boost one more time from the Psychic Seed. And yeah, now that the Chiyu is protected from this Iron Hands' fake out, it is more than free to go for a powerful overheat into this Farigiraf to maybe prevent the Trick Room. But as we just mentioned, the Farigiraf is playing the Terra Fire, so could of course also resist that powerful fire move and, you know, hang on and set up that crucial Trick Room.
Yeah, the Terra Fire is really safe option for Jonathan if he wants to get up that Trick Room, because like the only Dark type move on this Chiyu is the Snarl, so he's definitely not going to worry about that too much. But actually, it's the switch out from this Farigiraf instead here into the Roaring Moon, which I actually quite like, because you definitely know you can take either attack from Juan Pablo's Chiyu at this point. Got to watch out for the Dazzling Gleam on the DD. Oh no, I don't think it actually has a Dazzling Gleam.
It doesn't. No, it has Psychic.
Yeah, it's Psychic. So actually, it's the purple Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, this if this Chiyu really does go for an overheat, and it is gonna go for the Terra Fire, so maybe Juan Pablo hoping that even through the possible Terra Fire Farigiraf and the Helping Hand, hoping to get a KO on the Farigiraf, but it is of course a Roaring Moon switching, but instead a Heat Wave, and it is not going to hit the Iron Hands. Unfortunately, Heat Wave not the most accurate move, and that Heat Wave still doing so much damage to the Roaring Moon. Close combat here, even without the Dark type on the Chiyu, now still enough to get the KO on Juan Pablo's Terra for this second game, and Chiyu goes down. But no Trick Room up for Jonathan, but who needs Trick Room when you have Roaring Moon on the field this game?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's such a good Pokemon to be able to like take the hits and actually gotta go turbo instead on the Iron Hands if Jonathan so wants to here. But yeah, a commentator's curse. It was a while ago, Shona, but yeah, that Heat Wave does end up missing, and hopefully Juan Pablo doesn't blame you too much. But yeah, Fluttermane comes in instead. In a nice position, honestly, to be able to dish out the damage it needs to into these two very weak Pokemon, but I think Juan Pablo definitely wanted that Heat Wave damage on that Iron Hands. Probably wouldn't have KO'd still. Iron Hands is so bulky, but with the defense drop on it as well, a Dazzling Gleam would have been pretty safe to kind of pick off stuff kind of in this endgame here. But Jonathan, yeah, does have his Iron Hands now very much preserved and threatening a decent amount of damage into this next turn.
Yeah, if the Iron Hands had taken that Heat Wave, the Fluttermane could have easily knocked it out this turn. Of course, you know, Jonathan's Iron Hands is actually playing the Terra Electric, so no Terra Fire or like that, but Fluttermane going to go for a Protect to protect itself from this incoming knockoff. And guess we're going to see the we're going to see the Indeedee attack first. Is going to be a Psychic. The Iron Hands has had its defenses dropped, but still hangs on with just 8 HP. That is the one drawback of a powerful move like Close Combat, of course, is that you do drop your defenses. But Indeedee, unfortunately, not known to be the most powerful attacker, but that is still a lot of damage on a tank like Iron Hands. And now, in my opinion, the Fluttermane's still in a decent position here. Of course, the Roaring Moon could go for something like a Terra Poison, but that would make you weak to this full HP Indeedee, which probably not going to drop this turn. Could also just go for a Psychic, plus, you know, Dazzling Gleam into the Roaring Moon.
So the Iron Hands is switching out, actually, so yeah, potentially taking some damage that may come in from next turn. But yeah, actually, the Farigiraf is probably fairly safe here and is going to be able to take these Fluttermane attacks very nicely too. The knockoff is going to go into the Indeedee and does over half damage at the moment, so it's good information for Jonathan to know, and Dazzling Gleam does end up taking the Roaring Moon down here. Farigiraf being in is starting to threaten Trick Room, and if that Ursaluna is in the back, which it is, Jonathan may be setting up for a very similar game one.
Yeah, so the Farigiraf coming in here, I think, does make a lot of sense, because I think at this point Juan Pablo really wants to just get that Farigiraf into a position where it can set up that Trick Room so that Ursaluna can start sweeping again with those Hyper Voices and the Blood Moon, of course. And the Fluttermane being a Focus Sash set and not a Choice Spec set means that, you know, these Dazzling Gleams are gonna do way less damage. And of course the Terra already has been used by that Chiyu, which has gone down. So the most powerful move that, you know, this Fluttermane can get off right now is something like a Helping Hand Moonblast. But it is a Farigiraf. I wouldn't be surprised if it can take that move, you know. And that Trick Room could easily come up this turn.
Yeah, it's definitely not much threat of it here either. Interesting to see why Jonathan didn't actually bring in the Ursaluna here, actually, because then you could kind of protect and then get up the Trick Room, which you know you probably most likely can do here. as the Fluttermane, as you said, Shona can't really go for the Terror to boost its damage any further. And then you kind of preserve your Iron Hands in the back for maybe a fake out later in the game. But at least this way, though, you can you at least kind of preserve the information of the Ursula in the back, potentially. So Iron Hands does end up going down to that Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, Iron Hands going down to the Dazzling Gleam, which is, not going to do much to the Farigiraf at all. Instead, proccing the Citrus Berry to heal it right back up. And the Sindidi gotta go for a Psychic. Also not going to be enough to stop this Farigiraf here, even with the critical hit. And we are going to see a Trick Room go up, and it is time for Ursaluna to come in and shine once more.
Yeah, so Jonathan is down to his last 2 Pokemon, and Juan Pablo still has another Pokemon unrevealed in the back right now. But yeah, if the momentum question comes into play here, then it's definitely Jonathan who wins that right now. 4 turns of Trick Room to make most of with an Ursaluna is definitely nothing to shake a stick at. Now, we did talk about how much damage this Fluttermane can do into the Ursaluna right now, and it can definitely take a 1 hit here. And we've seen how much the Hyper Voice did also in that game 1 as well, and that it did enough combined with the Psychic. But Indeedee this time is on the field for Juan Pablo, and so Juan Pablo may be able to use that Indeedee to get around, or maybe try to stall out a few turns here. So I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see a Protect on this Fluttermane, which we don't often see it actually run, but it does have it here. Maybe get some damage out from this Indeedee to just start stalling out the final 4 turns of this Trick Room.
Yeah, judging by how much the Indeedee took from the Hyper Voice last game, I think there is a good chance that it can take one of those moves this turn. And I think I did see Jonathan contemplate, do I want to go for a Dazzling Beam or a Psychic here? But as you called, the Fluttermane going for that Protect this turn. The Farigiraf firing off that Psychic into the Fluttermane is not going to take any damage, and it is going to be a Hyper Voice. Is not going to do any damage to the Fluttermane, but will it be enough to knock out this Indeedee, or is it still going to hang on for 1 more turn? It hangs on for 1 more turn, fires off a Psychic itself into this Ursaluna, doing a respectable amount of damage. That Psychic terrain really shining through there, but it is gone now.
Yeah, unfortunately it is gone, and now Jonathan can do that classic move that he did in game 1, where you kind of use the Dazzling Gleam to kind of pick off the Pokemon that's on really low health, so you can actually make the most of the Blood Moon that can kind of come out from the Ursaluna instead here, which is definitely now an option, as the Hyper Voice was not enough for the Indeedee. But good turn from Juan Pablo to kind of preserve the Fluttermane and going for that Protect, kind of calling that turn quite well there. But I think what might be in the back for Juan Pablo, maybe that Ogerpon is going to have to be what it takes to kind of bring this back, but without the Terror it might be quite hard. And the Double Protect also failed here.
Yeah, those double protects is what Juan Pablo needs in this position that he's in right now, which is not great. Still 3 Trick Room turns to go, and it is just going to be a powerful Blood Moon into this Fluttermane. Of course, thanks to the Mind Eyes ability, normal moves can hit Ghost types as well. And 2 more Trick Room turns to go, and this Ursaluna is still going strong.
Yeah, so strong. Like, there's nothing stopping it right now other than just the stalling that Juan Pablo desperately needs to try out here. Now, at least Ursaluna can't go for another Blood Moon at least this turn, so I think Ogerpon, with the 2 turns of Trick Room left, kind of needs to go on the offense here. Hope it kind of survives maybe a Hyper Voice plus Psychic, and then so it can spike his shield on the last turn. But here's a Helping Hand.
Oh, is it gonna be enough? The Hyper Voice coming through, Helping Hand boosted, Silk Scarf boosted. Is Ogerpon able to survive? No, it does not survive that Hyper Voice, unfortunately. And the second game and the match with that goes to Jonathan Marston. Congratulations. So, Team UK up 2-0 already. Personally, I feel like in that last game, of course, the other option for Juan Pablo would have been to go for something like a double spiky shield. But I think we were all uncertain, can the Ogerpon take those hits or not? So yeah, he decided to risk it, and unfortunately did not work out.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But like that turn 1 though, Shona, like I also kind of didn't kind of clock that the Iron Hands that Jonathan has is not Salt Vest, it's the Clear Amulet. So actually, with a Helping Hand, Terrifier, boosted Heat Wave, that Iron Hands may have actually gone down, and then the Iron Hands isn't around to close combat to chew you back, and actually would have been in like Juan Pablo would have been in an excellent position of going from there, because she would have been still around, threatening even more damage yet again. So potentially, yeah, this might have made a big difference there, but then there may have even been a game 3 in the worst case scenario, and we don't know how Jonathan may have even played the game again and use Ursaluna to a great effect once again in the game 3. We don't know, but he has though won it at least in this.